Why is it that with our self-awareness, with our emotional intelligence, and with all the knowledge that we've accumulated, why is it that we still feel frustrated and angry because of the same sort of, I guess, cycle that we keep repeating? Why do we keep going through the same experiences? Why do we keep having to be caught in the classroom of the same emotional teachers? And the answer is it's because we're associating with the part of ourselves that could recognize the pattern, and we're not associating or identifying with the part of ourselves that is capable of breaking that pattern. So we have to stop identifying simply with our ability to be aware of our negative and destructive habits, and we have to start associating ourselves with a version of us that is capable of breaking through those habits and aligning with a different sort of reality. This is very easy to say in hindsight, and a lot of people don't even realize that they're stuck in this sort of trap because, in a way, they're taking pride in the things that they can notice and not in the things that they can do. And it's a lot easier to take pride in the things that we notice because it doesn't necessarily require us to move through the amount of discomfort that it would take to leave our comfort zone or to put ourselves out there or to go through anything that is sort of limiting us in the form of fear, in the form of anxiety, whatever it may be. And actually, you could actually look at it from the standpoint of if you are self aware and you are feeling a little bit miserable these days, that you would maybe have been better off without your self awareness and sort of enjoying the ignorant bliss that is the experience of life. And a quick caveat, just because one person is self aware and another person is maybe less self aware, maybe they're, more blissfully enjoying their life without the depth that creates that sort of anxious thought process. One life isn't inherently more, you know, deep than another. Just because you're self aware, that doesn't make you more, I guess, attuned to the flow of life. You may have the awareness to see things from a greater and broader perspective. But if that space that you're creating to see all of those things, to interpret all of that knowledge and wisdom, is creating a sort of standstill of anxiety in which you're no longer participating in your life, but you're really only observing it, then you are sort of no different than that of a person who is blissfully and ignorantly enjoying their life. It's just two different forms of misery. You know, one person doesn't even know that they're supposed to be miserable. So now the question is, are they even miserable? If they're relatively living in the present moment, if they're experiencing their life, yeah, maybe they're not learning, quote unquote, as much. But who's to say that the self awareness that we have, the emotional intelligence that we have, that we're not really applying, that we're not really using, and in an applicable way, who's to say that they are not experiencing life within the depths that we are? And this is what happens. We get stuck in the act of observing because at first, when you couldn't observe it and when you couldn't notice it, you felt lost and you felt a sense of being found when you finally were able to realize all the things that were sort of wrong and all the destructive habits that were keeping you trapped for so long. It felt like an epiphany. It felt like a light bulb went off in your mind because you're saying, oh, wow, like, how did I not see this before? It's so clear now. But that's not even where the entire process begins. Life truly begins. We truly are reborn when we are living without fear. So, whatever this means, in whatever form that may take, the self awareness itself isn't going to save us. And if anything, that self awareness is going to make us more miserable because now we're going to be double thinking every conversation we have. Now, every interaction is going to be a sort of spectacle for us to analyze and observe instead of just letting things flow because life is weird. Life can be awkward. Life can be, funny. Life can be beautiful. Life can be difficult. It can be all of these things. So, if we're using our self awareness in a sort of perfectionist manner, trying to smooth out all the bumps and edges and rough parts of life, then we're going to keep on being frustrated and we're even going to possibly develop a sense of deep anger. And that starts to create our shadow in a way, our inner child that is frustrated and angry. And they're not frustrated and angry at the world, but rather because they know that they're not stepping into the true power of what they're capable of. You aren't stepping in to that discomfort. You are allowing the thoughts that you can view, that you can observe, that you know aren't you. You are allowing the fear, the anxiety that you know aren't you, that you know are temporary experiences. You know all of this because of your self awareness. And yet you understand, but you don't apply. And this is when understanding fuels more misery. You kind of get what I'm trying to say is that until we actually start walking that path, the path of action, the path of leaving our comfort zone, the path of going through discomfort in exchange for the things that we really want, we are not going to be able to change and shape our identity in a way where we're now affecting the way reality responds to us. Because that's what happens. That's why we use neuroplasticity. And for those of you who don't know, neuroplasticity is our mind's ability to, in a way, reform itself and create new neural pathways and basically change the way its entire system is operating. It changes the thoughts that you receive more often. It changes the natural impulses and responses you have to life experiences. When we do this, when the mind is changed through affirmative action and we change our identity, then we change the character that we're bringing to the story and the story begins to change. But none of this is due to self-awareness. Self-awareness was only opening the door. Being able to know how you may be presented or how you may be being interpreted, are you truly attaching to that disposition as an opinion or a fact? Because it is an opinion, and your opinion of yourself still may be flawed. So why would we trust any opinion? Why don't we leave opinions out the door and let people tell us? Why don't we let reality respond? Why don't we let the cause and effect of our actions truly tell us what the story of our life is unfolding to become? Because that is the reality. That is the truth. Many people suffer, and it's because they have not yet realized that the mind and the identity and everything that they know about life and how they fit in life is just a product of their thinking mind and not reality. You are existing within a very, very strong filter that is filtering your experience of life instead of just existing and experiencing life in its raw form. And when we experience life in its raw form, of course, there's going to be turbulence. It's going to be uncomfortable because you're so used to, spending more of your time not experiencing life, spending more of your time in maybe your room, staying alone, isolating, whatever it may be. You're used to doing these things and you're used to creating an idea of the world, creating an idea of your life, and then you start to believe it. And this is the most understated version of kind of delusion and even madness that we're all playing into. And I'm not saying that to say that there's inherently something wrong with you or anybody else or even me or us, because we all do it. We all do that. But you really have to get sick and tired of those mind games. You have to get fed up with experiencing the same things over and over. And it's not reality that is recycling your experiences. It's the way that you're fabricating yourself in reality. It's the identity that you're attaching yourself to. Fear and anxiety will decorate itself in many ways to stay alive in the identity you've created. And it's very imperative that you listen to life and stop listening to your mind. Look at what life is showing you. When you act in a certain way, when you do something, how does life respond? How do the situations in your life, how do the outcomes and the results of your choices reflect rather than the choices and decisions you make in your mind? The choices and decisions you make in your mind, they don't yield any results. If anything, they yield an imaginary outcome that you're experiencing in your mind. And the reason you get so frustrated, the reason you get so angry and you feel so stuck is because those experiences aren't real. Your imagination and what you're assuming experiences would be like aren't real. You must, and you must go through the discomfort of actually going in and experiencing life. That discomfort is a sort of initiation into literally everything we want. We think that discomfort is a hurdle in the path. No, discomfort is the whole thing. Discomfort is the whole thing. If we can sit through the discomfort, we can have anything. And I don't mean anything materially. I mean anything emotionally. I mean anything satisfactory wise. Because I look at many things, I look at many psychological practices and many things in life as in how is it actually going to benefit us? All of the personality archetypes, all of the, if you're self aware, you act like this. If you're self aware, you don't act like that. It's all fun and, it can be nice to ponder at. But how can we actually apply certain principles to improve our life right now, ASAP? Because if we're still attached to our thoughts, if any single thought can brush us away and move us out of the present moment and ruin our day, ruin our hour, whatever it may be, then we're not free. We're not enjoying life. We may know that every thought that comes into our mind is not us. But if we're not practicing withholding a reaction and an engagement from that thought, we're not actually reaping the rewards or the benefits of anything else. And that's the entire summary of what I'm trying to get at, is that it doesn't matter if you know it. There is no reward for knowing. There is only ever a reward for applying. And that's a brutal, honest truth that I didn't want to accept for a very long time. And I think many of us who are in this sort of space of self growth, healing, and all these things, it's very comfortable to heal in the comfort of our room. It's very comfortable to have those difficult conversations with ourselves. It's very easy to be the person that we want to be when there's no one around. But in a room full of strangers, in an environment filled with discomfort, in a situation where there is much that is unknown, that's where it counts the most. That's where you actually put points on the board for a version of yourself that you've always wanted to become. And the reason I mentioned anger and frustration before is because many people won't acknowledge this truth until it comes to an utter breaking point. Maybe they're looking at the night sky and they start crying or they start screaming at the world and saying, why do I have to be like this? Or, why is my identity and my personality shaped the way it is? And then right at that moment, they will say, I have nothing to lose. I'm just going to act like the person I always wanted to be anyway. I have nothing to lose. Worst case, I end up exactly where I'm at now. And that's when they actually have a little bit of leverage in their life. Because they start to see, they get to so sick and they get so fed up with their own thoughts, with their own mind, with their own anxieties, with their own fears, that they stop caring. Because they start to say, you know, I'm already feeling so much discomfort. I'm already feeling so much anxiety, fear. I'm already so angry at myself and my life. At least if I go through the discomfort of doing the things that I want, at least there will be some sort of reward at the end of the tunnel. If I continue in this self-aware manner, I'm just experiencing the discomfort without the benefit of gaining anything practically in life. And that's why when people say that rock bottom is leverage, it's the same thing when we're overly self-aware, when we're overly analytical, when we're overly cynical about the possibilities of what we're capable of. Your environment has shaped you since you were literally 0 years old. From however old you are now, you have been shaped by your environment. You've been shaped by the people around you. You can do that to yourself. You can shape yourself. And the beauty about the unconscious mind is that even if we doubt the process, and by the process I mean neuroplasticity, even if we doubt our ability to shape and form our identity, it doesn't matter. Because if we keep implementing, if we keep sitting through the discomfort of actually doing the things we want, if we do the behaviors that we associate with the version of ourselves that we always wanted to become, our unconscious mind will start to change and it will start to formulate a different idea of who we are. It will send us different signals. It will not send us, but it will interact with itself in a different way. It will create new neural pathways for us to experience life and experience who we are in a different way. There's no amount of self-awareness that can make up for the mental calluses that are a result of experiencing life. And to my next point, self-awareness doesn't build resiliency. What builds resiliency is living in the present moment and trying to stay in the present moment over and over and over again. Because you need resiliency, because we often look at living in the present moment as something that's very graceful, something that's very surrendering and soft, like a warm pillow. And it can be that. And many of the times it will be that. But just as many times it will be difficult emotions, it will be uncomfortable situations, it will be anxiety and fear inducing environments. And we have to remain present in that and remain in the identity of who we want to be, even amidst all of the things going on around us. And there's so many facets to who we are that we should be willing to let go of. We shouldn't be sad that we're letting go of this version of ourselves in exchange for a more powerful version and a more confident version of ourselves. The true you, the core of who you are, is awareness, and that awareness never changes. But we forget that we are the one that chooses who to be. We get caught up in the character that we're playing in life. We forget that we do have a decision in which character to play. You could wake up tomorrow morning and act like a different person. In fact, if you moved around the world and acted like a different person, nobody there would know you as anybody different than the person you were acting as. The person that you were acting as. And you can say, well, even if the people around the world or on the other side of the world know me as that, I know that I'm not that. But who's to say? If your environment and your past has shaped you to be who you are today, then you didn't really have as much say in becoming who you are now. So what is inauthentic about choosing to be a different version of who you are? Because in reality, the confident and empowered version of yourself, the more at peace, the more free, and the more present version of yourself isn't going to be as different as you think. You're still going to feel that very familiar feeling of, you know, I like to call it you-ness. And that's awareness in the form of identity, because awareness is, emotionless, without thought. It's void of anything. All it does is it sees. And it is us, when we take form, in the form of ego, that we choose an identity to play in this lifetime. And why would we not choose an identity that's going to make us the most satisfied with life, that is going to help us enjoy life, learn from life, and be present in the experiences of life? That's the very nature of self-awareness. That's the root of it, is realizing that you have a choice, and that awareness of the self means choose the self. You are aware of the self, and it is because you are aware of the faculties of your identity, of your ego, of yourself, that you can reform and choose it to be in any which way that you would like. Don't get hung up on the person that you are being. Get attached to a version of yourself, and don't give any leeway to the old conditioning of the mind to try to bring you back to that old version of yourself. That's literally all it is. You keep affirming it until it becomes your reality. And there's going to be one thing that's going to be a big hurdle, and that is you're going to keep listening to the mind, to the fearful thoughts when they say, this isn't you. This isn't you. You aren't capable. You can't do this. But just because fear decorates itself in a reasonable voice doesn't mean that it's correct. That's the same old conditioning of the mind. Even if those thoughts appear to be logical, even if those thoughts appear to have some reason, all it is your brain trying to bring you back into an identity it is familiar with. And it's not doing this purposefully. It doesn't have any intention on its own. It's only doing that because it's so used to you affirming that old identity. So just keep affirming the new identity enough, and the brain will start to support that identity just as much as it used to the old one. And then the thoughts will start to change as well. Not that thoughts matter. We don't even need thoughts. The whole point is that we're acting in an identity that we choose. And it doesn't matter what thoughts we receive right away. It doesn't even matter what emotions we're experiencing right away. Because we are awareness. And in the identification with awareness, in the identification with the chooser, we choose to be a version and a character that is going to bring us the most fulfillment and satisfaction out of our lives. Hopefully this episode wasn't too all over the place. If you guys enjoyed this video, I actually took inspiration for this video from my most recent book. It's called Stop Abusing Your Self-Awareness. I'll probably keep mentioning it at the end of every video, but I don't want to force it. Um, you know, if you are interested in it and you would like to buy it, I'll leave a link in the description. You can also check my channel pages, my channel pages, or just look up Kinzer MB or Stop Abusing Your Self-Awareness, on Amazon or anywhere else where you find books. Other than that, if you're on YouTube, thank you. Make sure to like and subscribe. And if you're on Shopify, thank you for listening as always. And that's it for me. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.